We're actually discussing before we hit record here on episode 2 that I need a haircut, and that's actually what I'm doing just after we record what is episode 2. We're excited to bring it to you guys. I'm McCarvel, and she is Blair Henley, and we had a lot of positive feedback from episode 1, and we are very much looking forward to bringing you this to of
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. What's up, Blair?
We're back. I'm trying to master my graphics position because last week I think I was a little bit off. So I'm hoping this is better, right under the face. Good? No, it was so fun last week. It was great to just go ahead and do it. We had been talking about it for so long, and it's nice to just kind of pull the trigger and have fun with it. And I hope you all enjoyed it as well. We are in for another fun episode, we hope. Today we are going to be talking, of course, about our Your Serve question from last week, Kim Clijsters' comeback, which was the talk of tennis Twitter yesterday. It was so fun to follow that. I'm here in Delray Beach. We're going to talk about Monfils's back-to-back titles for the first time in his career. We'll talk about Coco. As I mentioned, I'm down here in South Florida, and that we've only had one day of main draw play at the Delray Beach Open. There's Champions Tour action here before play starts. There was the Coco Gauff exhibition, which was crazy, absolutely amazing here. Great for the event. And so, yeah, I mean, it's so many things to cover. Where are we going to start, Nick?
Well, let's start. I love that we can see that you're in Delray Beach. I love that. And let's actually start with, you mentioned Coco Gauff, and Saturday night was awesome. Coco playing in front of 5,000 people in front of her home crowd for the first time. And it was actually the first time that stadium that you know so well there in Delray Beach had a women's match whatsoever. She played against University of Miami's Estela Perez Samariba. She's the reigning NCAA national champ. Coco won that match, but Blair, it wasn't necessarily about the tennis result. It was more just about the cultural moment for the two of them.
Yeah, and I will say, actually, for an exhibition, I mean, we've seen enough exhibitions. They're fun. They're meant to entertain, but Perez Samariba wanted to win, which added just a little bit more intensity to the match. The conditions were really tough. It was so incredibly windy, but the stands were packed. There was more media here than I have seen in my 5 years of working for this tournament, as you might expect. But overall, I just like the trend. We have seen these events in Newport. I have been present for a couple of those there. We've seen it in Atlanta, in Winston-Salem. So the ATP 250s bringing in top WTA players to introduce maybe fan bases who haven't seen WTA tennis before. I'm here for that trend for sure.
And what were some of the takeaways just from, I mean, it was Coco Mania once again, but you got to spend quite a bit of time with her.
Yeah, it was nice. We did a post-match interview. She is just so calm, cool, relaxed, comfortable on the mic, which I know we all know this at this point, but she's 15 and you have to continue to remind yourself of that. But we did do kind of a little fun 2-minute interview after the post-match interview in which I said, hey, you know, it's Saturday night. If you wanted to maybe go out to see a movie tonight, do you have to ask your parents for an allowance? Like, what is that setup? Because, I mean, listen, I can't relate to having millions of dollars at 15. And she said, nope, I have no allowance, but my parents are not concerned because I am very frugal. So frugal 15-year-old for Coco. So I thought that was a neat little insight into how, you know, quote unquote, normal life is for her. So, but again, right, the whole team was in town. Tony Godsick was here. Mary Jo Fernandez was here. Her direct agent, Alessandra, was here. So the whole crew came down to the Delray Beach Open.
And we're going to see her on tour next, obviously, at Indian Wells. But these experiences, I think you mentioned Winston-Salem, obviously, for her last year, Blair. I think that they're going to really pay a dividend for her moving forward, being the center of attention, being in front of a big crowd, and having that pressure. Because, you know, you mentioned, obviously, that the two of them both Perez Samariba wanted to win that match, too. That was a match, of course, that Coco would have wanted to win.
Yes. So I would think walking out, knowing that the majority of the crowd was there to see her, I would have thought there might be some nerves, actually, knowing, again, that you have an opponent who's not really concerned with the narrative. she definitely wanted to get that W. So there were some really great points. We clipped some on the Delray Beach Open social feed. So if you're interested, you could scroll back and see those. But yeah, I think they both enjoyed it, and they both had really nice words to say about each other. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Perez Samariba on tour after she finishes school. But love, she shouted out her team in the upper deck. It was great.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so cool scenes there. We're going to talk a lot more about Delray Beach, obviously, with Blair on site this week in South Florida. Let's turn to the your serve question from last week, which was all about Kim Clijsters and her comeback, which really came to fruition yesterday. Last night in Dubai, she took on Garbiñe Muguruza. She was meant to play Kiki Bertens. Bertens pulled out after winning St. Petersburg. So she went from one top 10 stalwart to a two-time Grand Slam champion and Australian Open finalist in Muguruza. And Clijsters was down a set and 3-love Blair before she rallied a bit and took that second set to a tie break where Muguruza was able to close it out. It was some really positive and encouraging tennis from Clijsters. We're going to get to your serve responses from you guys. We had a lot of people weighing in on both our Facebook and on Twitter, Blair. But first, I want to bring in a good friend of both of ours and a familiar face for us in the press room. She's actually in Dubai. It's Reem Abulleil. And here's what Reem had to say about Kim Clijsters and her tennis.
Hi, Nick. Hi, Blair. Thanks for having me, guys. What particularly impressed me about Kim here in Dubai was many things, actually. I was so impressed how she managed to bounce back from that first set. She couldn't find her serve, she couldn't find her timing in the first set, and then suddenly she started really to pick things up, and even in her own words, she felt like she was going toe-to-toe with Garbiñe. Her movement was great. I feel that's kind of part of her DNA, really. And she, at moments there, when she was slamming those backhand winners, and really with such perfect timing in the second set and climbing back from double break 3-0 down in the second set. Honestly, when she lost that first set easily and went down a double break, I think everybody pretty much thought the match was going to be over soon, and then she fought back, forced the tie break, really could have taken it to 3. That was really, really, really impressive to see. She's known, like a lot of the players, one of them was Bencic before the tournament when I asked her, what do you make of Kim's comeback? And she said Kim is known that even if she doesn't play for years, her timing is always impeccable.
Okay, so we're going to hear more, obviously, from Reem there in just a second, but the timing impeccable, and we saw that, I think, struggled, as Reem's saying, with the serve and her timing in the first set. But Blair, for her to be gone from tour for 7 years and then come back and show us glimpses of where she is and where she can be.
Yeah, well, tennis is a sport where you can be gone for 2 weeks and come back and feel like you're off kilter. So the fact that she's been able to put her mind to this, obviously she's done a lot of training. There was a little setback with that knee injury at the end of last year, but I got to kind of follow this on Twitter. I didn't actually get to see it live, and the jubilation and excitement from fans was so much fun to kind of see in real time. And we got some of those predictions in response to our Your Serve question. So a lot of excitement and, kind of a range of opinions on how this was going to go.
Yeah, totally. Just a couple of those. Betty on Facebook saying that as a Belgian, she's really happy that Kim is playing, happy if she's able to win, but she thinks that her training overall is going to help, especially with the Belgian Fed Cup team. We saw her on the bench just last week, and that Betty's saying she's proud that Kim has the guts to do this. We're going to hear more responses, but let's go ahead and hear from Reem one more time, Blair, on Kim's thoughts overall from her own comeback.
And actually, that is what we kind of saw on the court. She has been talking in such a zen mode in both press conferences we had with her here, which I really admired, because she comes off as someone who genuinely knows exactly why she's doing this. She has her own personal reasons for this comeback. She's not trying to prove anything to anybody else. She's trying to do it for herself. And usually you would sense a bit of hesitation when there's so many unknowns. You don't know what's going to happen when you step on the court. But she has sounded so calm and just so zen about everything, which actually for me, I love seeing that. I love seeing someone who makes such a big decision and feels so strong about it. So that's how she sounded. In terms of moving forward, I think she's looking forward to having her kids travel with her, because obviously it's not easy for her to be away from her 3 kids. So that's one of the things she's looking forward to. So she's got Monterey and Indian Wells next, and she's kind of looking forward to having them with her on the road. All in all, like she said on Twitter, it's a win. Like, even if she lost to Garbini yesterday, what she did was a win.
Awesome. Indeed, a win. Thank you, Reem Abulleil, for that winning piece of insight from Dubai. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the fact that she came back and we saw positive signs, it was easy to see, Blair, when I was watching the second set, for Clijsters to be down that set in 3-0. It felt like maybe the wheels were just going to come off, and it was kind of like, okay, shoot, like what positives am I going to be able to take away from this? And she just kept fighting, which I thought was really powerful, especially if you and I think back to 2.5 years ago. We're in Newport, where she's getting inducted into the Tennis Hall of Fame.
A total time warp moment. Nick and I were both actually present for that weekend when she was inducted just a couple of years ago. So that it's very strange to now be talking about her in terms of a player that's active on the court. But I liked the fan who said it takes guts, because yeah, we always hear you want to walk out there and be your own person and who cares what other people think. That's really, really hard when all eyes are on you. I don't know that I could do that. But I loved this quote. Christopher Clary wrote a great story when Kim announced that she was going to be coming back. And there was a quote in there from Martina Navratilova, which I thought kind of summed it all up. The measure of success for me is not if she gets to the top 100, top 50, or top 20. The measure of success is if she loves it and if she's doing what she wants to do. And that really kind of like wraps it up in a nice bow for me. I mean, that's exactly right. It's not up to us to determine how this goes, but props to her for not caring what we think.
Yeah, no, totally. And actually, off of that, Kim has been, with all of her social media, has been using the hashtag for the love of the game, because obviously she's coming back at 36 because she does love it. I want to give you guys a little more of a voice here from our year served question last week. We're going to have one this week too. James weighing in on Twitter saying that he's optimistic. He thinks it's going to take 2 or 3 tournaments for Kim to settle in. He's especially excited about Indian Wells, which I know you and I are as well, because we'll get to see her in person. Peter, a good friend of ours on Twitter, saying that he thinks Kim can win titles again, but he doesn't think that she can compete for majors. Sergey Miller on Twitter, I thought this was interesting. He says he's puzzled as to why she's coming back, and he doesn't feel like she has a chance. So there's still that negativity around Kim, and that she's got to fight against that a little bit. And then Lalonda on Twitter saying that they are very optimistic for Kim, and they want Kim to push things to the limit. So excited for the Kim Clijsters comeback. A pretty good start from Kim.
Yeah,
right?
And for us, listen, anything that brings eyes onto the game that maybe aren't always, huge thumbs up. We'll take that any day. Selfishly, it's great. We love it when maybe people who aren't the hardcore tennis fans are paying attention to tennis. So love that aspect of it as well.
Okay, speaking of, that's the perfect transition, talking about people who love to watch the sport who aren't necessarily tennis fans, because for the first time in his career, Nick Kyrgios is the #1 seed at an ATP event in Delray Beach. And is it Kyrgios mania down there? What's happening with Nicky K?
Well, he has been out on the court practicing in basketball jerseys, as we're used to seeing. There have been imitations of other players happening on the practice court. As usual, he keeps it light when whether it's warm up or practice. There's some actual practice happening, and then there's some just kind of, I'm going to call it getting comfortable on the courts here in Delray Beach. But he played pretty well here last year. Actually, he ended up having a long, tough loss, but I feel like he's coming in based on the start to his year, and let's hope he's healthy. He had to pull out of the New York Open, but I think maybe this could be the start of maybe seeing him at the top seed again. I don't know, but Nick, people follow when Nick is coming. I asked actually Frances Tiafoe last night after he won his first match, his first ATP Tour level win of the year. So big for Frances. But I asked him, I said, what do you expect tomorrow night when Tommy Paul, also a good friend of Frances's, plays Nick Kyrgios? And he said, it's going to be an absolute circus. So I'm looking forward to the circus. I can't wait. I have a feeling the stands will be absolutely packed. So.
Okay, awesome. And so, you know, in the past in Delray Beach, it's been the site of a couple Juan Martín del Potro comebacks, Blair. It's been the house that Kei Nishikori has built in the past. But you've got a loaded draw. You talk about Kyrgios taking on Tommy Paul in the first round. You've also got Milos Raonic, Riley Opoka, Taylor Fritz. Tiafoe won last night. That was a big. Hopefully he can turn things around. He's had great success there. Ernest Gulbis came through qualifying. You also have guys who are attempting a bit of a comeback in the sense of Ryan Harrison. Mackenzie McDonald got his first official tour win since he was out for a few weeks last year. And also Jack Sock trying to continue his comeback. So there's a lot of exciting storylines in Delray this week.
When you look at the draw, I don't think I'm alone in thinking. Somebody asked me actually the other day, who do you think's going to win? And I mean, it's got to be Milos, right? And I was like, there have been, I mean, last year the final was Dan Evans and Radu Albot. Anything can happen in Delray Beach, which actually for me makes it a whole lot of fun because I have no clue how this is going to shake out. I don't even have a good guess. So I'm going to be along for the ride with everyone else. But it was also fun over the weekend. We had the Champions Tour matches here. It's the only ATP event that has a Champions Tour event connected on one end or the other, which is kind of neat. But I saw Davi Ferrer in relaxed mode for the first time, I think, ever. I didn't even know that existed, but he was so chill. He played tennis golf with Marcos Bagdatis on the golf course with rackets and tennis balls. He told me he kept referring to his next lap of life. I liked that phrasing, his next lap of life, and just how he was just a little bit more relaxed. He still is in incredible shape. I'm sure he still wants to win just as much as he did, but just was a little more chill. Told me a little bit about his texting with the Spanish Davis Cup team, which I found. Of course, I was like, so what's the most used emoji in that text conversation? And he said, oh, the cry laughing face for sure. So, to fly on the wall in that conversation. So lots of fun stuff happening here in Delray.
And you guys are doing a lot of fun stuff off the court too. You're gonna have some fun videos. And did we see Yoshihito Nishioka wearing a Yoshi head? Is that right?
We may have seen that, Nick. There, I don't want to give anything away. There's more to come on that front. Let me just tell you though that my suggested items suggested for you section on Amazon is looking a little weird right now. The purchases I made in preparation for Delray Beach video content this year. So keep an eye on our social feed for that at Delray Beach Open because I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I think that's always the fear when you're creating content. I can be thinking this is the greatest thing ever. Like, I love this, but you just never quite know how it's going to do on the open market of social content. So I am happy with it. I thought it was fantastic, and I hope you all agree.
Awesome. Well, looking forward to all of that from you, Blair, in Delray Beach this week. We're going to go ahead and segue into our last couple segments here on Tennis Tuesday, and I think it's time for Aces and Faults, right? We've got a lot of tennis news over the last week. We had Gael Monfils winning his first ever back-to-back titles. I think Ricky Diamond even said it was the first time he had ever won 2 titles in 1 year. Monfils beating Felix Auger-Aliassime in the Rotterdam final, so that's a big ace for Monfils. I have a couple random ones. First, all the talk has been Kim Clijsters, obviously, on the comeback trail. What about 42-year-old Tamarine Tanasugarn, who was playing doubles last week in Hua Hin in Thailand? It's amazing to see Tammy back. I don't know if there are plans for more tennis for her in the near future, but obviously that is awesome. And then right here in New York City, both Serena Williams had her fashion show, the whole production. She had a Q&A with Anna Wintour. Caroline Wozniacki walked in it. I think Serena called it a big success for Fashion Week. And Naomi Osaka helped with a fashion show herself as well, one of her designs being shown on the runway. And I think it was also revealed that Osaka's doing a Netflix documentary in the lead up to Tokyo. So those are a couple aces for me. And then I have an ace slash fault, Blair, which is cheating a little bit. But last night in Rio, Carlos Alcaraz is 16 years old, and he won his first ever ATP match, beating Ramos Vinolas in Rio, almost 4 hour match. But already the comparisons are being prompted between him and Rafael Nadal. Yeah. And so I just want to slow the train a little bit. We get very excited about young champions in tennis, but give Mr. Alcaraz just a little time to figure out himself and his own game. And he actually says, though there are the Rafa comparisons, because Rafa's the last 16-year-old to win a ATP match on tour, he actually says his game is more like Federer's.
There you go. Equal opportunity, big 2/3 enthusiast. Love that. And I'm going to call it faults. I struggled to think of an actual fault, but I loved seeing Gabriela Sabatini at the Buenos Aires trophy ceremony, the Argentina Open. Casper Ruud, of course, became the highest ranked Norwegian in history, surpassing his father, who is also his coach, which we love. And of course, Casper was poking some fun at that on Twitter. But the gifts, thanks Double Fault for posting the gifts of Gabriela Sabatini at the trophy ceremony. I want more Gabby. So how can we make this happen?
I love that, for sure.
So I'm going to go with the fault is that we don't get to see enough of her, and I would like to see her involved more in the everyday operations on tour.
I liked that. That was an ace and a fault wrapped into one, because we love Gabby. We want more Gabby. I definitely support that. Last but not least, the Your Serve this week was obviously, we talked all things Kim Clijsters. And Blair, what are we serving up for next week?
Yes, well, I alluded to it before. Is this going to be the first of more times that we get to see Nick Kyrgios as a top seed? It's the age-old question. There are still a lot of people that love to talk about it, so we want to pose that question to you. Do we think that Nick Kyrgios is going to find, I think the best word to describe it is just consistency this year? Are we going to see consistent health, consistent top tennis? He's ranked 21 in the world right now, and so we love your predictions on an unpredictable player. So we'd love to have you give those to us either on the Tennis Tuesday Facebook page or in response to our post on Twitter. So give us your thoughts. We want to know.
For sure. You guys don't hesitate to use the comments below us here on Facebook. And episode 2, I think that does it for us.
I think it does, but I will say one thing, Nick. I don't know if you said it at the top of the show, but we did at the beginning last week say that we were going to make this 10 minutes. And then we realized at about 9 minutes in last week that was perhaps unrealistic. We just have too much to say. We're enthusiastic about tennis. We hope you are as well. And again, the goal of this show is not necessarily to have hardcore tennis breakdown, which we may at times, but we want to give you kind of that behind the scenes scoop. So for instance, I'm on site this week. I will hopefully next week have some fun behind the scenes anecdotes for you that just kind of help you get to know players just a little bit better. In my opinion, that's what really creates lifelong fans, is when you can relate to a player on a level that's maybe not necessarily related to the forehand or the backhand. So though we're going to have that tennis nerd breakdown stuff, we're also going to have a little bit of that behind the scenes stuff as well.
I love that. And it reminds me that we are going to try to slowly build our tech game little by little. Blair upped her game this week with a lav mic. You sounded great. And we had Reem, obviously, that audio. We want to get people, we're going to do like group. We should improve our graphics too. I mean, I kind of like them though, right?
I spent a lot of time. I spent a lot of time on this, Nick. I'm using this until the paper starts to degrade.
Oh, you guys, thanks so much for joining us. She's Blair Henley. I'm Nick McCarvel. This has been Tennis Tuesday, and we'll talk to you again in a week.